Good morning. Welcome to the webinar. We have some people filing in, and I know there's a couple people that need to download the WebEx extension, so we're just going to give them a couple more minutes to get logged on and all set up. We'll start around 11:02. For those of us just joining, we're going to be getting started in another couple minutes. We're going to give everyone 1 or 2 minutes just to get the WebEx extension all installed and running. So we'll get started officially at about 3 minutes at 11:02. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We are just finishing up having everyone file in and get the WebEx up and running. We're going to get started now in about a minute. If you have any issues with the audio or the screen sharing, you can reach out via the chat panel. Okay, it looks like our last few attendees are filing in. Mike, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Okay, we have got a few people finishing up their logins. We're going to kick it off officially in about a minute here. So welcome everyone to the Agile Marketing webinar. As you know, today we've gathered here to learn all about how to combine inbound marketing and Agile inbound marketing to produce a remarkable 10 times increase in leads. We're very excited to speak with you this morning. I'd like to introduce our presenter, Mike Lieberman. He is our Chief Inbound Scientist and the President of Square 2 Marketing. We are an inbound marketing agency, HubSpot Diamond Partner, and we have been piloting an Agile marketing program for about 8 months now. My name is Megan Durrett. I am the Director of Inbound Marketing for Square 2, and I'm also an inbound coach. So I'm going to just go through the agenda, what we'll cover in the next hour or so. We're going to go through some basic tenets of Agile inbound marketing, and then at the end we'll open it up for questions. So first we're going to cover why Agile and why is now the right time to get started with this methodology. We're going to talk about organizing your team to get you the best results. We're going to talk about how to prioritize all of the work that marketers need to get done. We're going to talk about focusing on business results and what's really important. And then we're going to talk about metrics, analytics, and results. We're going to see some results from actual clients, and we're going to learn how to apply the Agile methodology to get your business there. At the end, as I mentioned, we'll open it up for questions, and we'll answer as many questions as we can within the hour. If there's any overflow questions, we'll reach out by email, and we'll be sure to follow up with you. And then there's a special offer for everyone who's attending today. If you stick around until the very end of the webinar, we will be following up with a new offer for you that should set you well on your way to get started with Agile inbound marketing.
Okay, great, Megan. Thanks. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. One of the things I wanted to just set out from the beginning is I want to make sure that we're all clear in terms of what we're going to try to accomplish here over the next 45 minutes or so, and that is really want to give, business people, CEOs, business owners, VPs of marketing, VPs of sales, marketing directors, marketing managers, the people that are kind of in the trenches responsible for generating leads for your businesses. I want to give you guys a perspective around Agile. So, if you have an agency and you're looking for insights on, how to do things from an agency perspective, this probably is not going to be the webinar for you. Clearly, you're welcome to continue to attend and listen in, but I'm going to really be talking to the business people from a perspective for the next 45 minutes or so and help you guys find out how you can get better results from your marketing by applying Agile. Great. So why now? I mean, we're all into generating leads for our businesses. Why are people starting to talk about Agile? Why now? Why is the business environment now starting to look at different ways to execute marketing? So let's talk about that for a couple of minutes. First of all, marketing today and sales as well is way more complex and way more creative than it's ever been before. When you think about all the things that we have to do, and I'm going to kind of give you a little snapshot of everything we do for our clients, you'll see that the world of marketing has just become amazingly complicated. On top of that, look at the technology landscape. These are all of the tools that people can consider to improve the performance of their marketing. And marketing in and of itself has never been more complicated. It's not about launching a campaign and waiting to see how it does for 3 months. Marketing has become a very responsive exercise, a very data-driven exercise, a very technology-enabled exercise. And because of that, there's some evolution that's taking place that, today we're going to share a little bit about how Agile is participating in that evolution. Here's some comments that some, experts in the space have been making relatively recently. I attended a conference a couple of weeks ago, and this was some of the data that was shared. CEB, a company that does a lot of industry analysis, is talking about 57% of the buyer journey is done before a sales rep is even involved. So, if your business is still relying on cold calls or auto dialing or sales reps, reaching out to people to see if, they're interested in what you guys do, you might want to start to think about how, the buyer has already been involved, already been engaged looking for information. Gartner is reporting that 7 people are now involved in the average B2B buying decision. Are salespeople able to identify those 7 people and call on those 7 people, or are there some better ways to get in touch with those people so that they're well aware of you before you even make that initial introduction to a potential prospect? The IDC is showing that 75% of B2B buyers now use social media to reach potential vendors, suppliers, or partners. So the buyers themselves are doing some outreach, and the buyers themselves are trying to identify who they might potentially want to do business with. Harvard Business Review reports that 90% of decision makers say they never respond to cold outreach, either an unsolicited email or a cold call or a direct mail. So if 9 out of 10 people that you're reaching out to are not interested in cold outreach, what choice do you have? And, while inbound does present some of the options around going about marketing from a different perspective, Agile is a pretty big component of that, and we'll dig into that in a couple of minutes. Corporate visions, 74% of buyers choose the rep that was first to add value and insight. So, again, if your salespeople and your marketing is not helping your prospects and educating your prospects and giving them good guidance, then you're probably not going to be around at the end when the decision making is going on. So here's some perspective on what's going on in the marketplace. The buyer journey is completely different. There's a much more complicated exercise going on with the people that you want to buy your products and services. There's an awareness stage. There's a consideration stage. There's a decision-making stage. And there's even an opportunity to delight your clients and retain your customers if marketing is done well. So the entire exercise, the entire funnel has become much more complicated and kind of content-driven. Look at all the stuff you have to do. This is a sample of some of the things that we typically do for clients. There's just so many marketing tactics and inbound tactics that you need to at least consider to decide what's right for your prospects and your marketing effort. But there's websites and on-site SEO and content and videos and podcasts and webinars and email marketing and lead nurturing and lead scoring and referral programs and sales process, account-based marketing. Like, there's so many things you have to do, and you have to do them all well, and you have to do them in an integrated way. And this is also contributing to some of the complexity because there's so many things that need to be done. And by the way, there's no advertising on this list. There's no direct mail on this list. A lot of the old tactics didn't even make the list. So, consider this the new marketing and the new set of playbooks that you need to execute. The old stuff is not even on the list. And here's what some of the challenges are and why Agile works so well. You have a lot of unhappy team members because it is so complicated. The results are less than expected because maybe you haven't done it before. Perhaps you made an iffy technology choice. You may have the wrong technology, or you may have the right technology but the wrong processes behind it. There's questioning around the methodology. Inbound doesn't produce results immediately. So, after a couple months, people might start to say, well, is this right for me, without really giving it a chance? Inefficiencies in execution, meaning it may be taking you too long to do some of the things that you need to do simply because it's just you don't really know how to. And there's no real clear path forward. So there's a lot of challenges that are contributing to failure of people being able to execute inbound marketing. And I think Agile is going to offer some solutions to that. And as a result of that, there's a lot of uncertainty, meaning, people don't really know what to do, and they don't really know what road to path, and they don't really know who to ask for help, and they don't really know how to make the adjustments. So lots of times, unfortunately, when human beings become uncertain, there's generally like a lack of, wanting to do anything. And the status quo might be the worst thing you could do, because you really need to stick with it, and you really need to figure out how to make it work, as opposed to feeling like, well, this didn't work like I thought it would. Let's go back to what we used to do. Going back to what you used to do really is not an option. So you got to take Thomas Edison's advice here, and you got to find a better way to do it. And I'm hoping that today I'll be able to give you some advice on how to think about it differently. And, we were kind of in the same boat a lot of you guys are. We were using the waterfall method for almost every single thing we did. We did some discovery and planning, we did some design work, we did some development, and then we did some testing. And the fact of the matter was, this really didn't allow us to respond in a fast enough way to get our clients the best results. So as we started to think about what the options were, we started to investigate this Agile method, and you can see the differences in the way marketing tactics are deployed. It's a much more iterative process. It's a much more data-driven process, and it seemed to fit much better with what we were trying to do for clients. So on paper, it looked like something that at least we wanted to investigate, and investigate we did. So the first thing we did was we read this book. It's kind of like the de facto book around, understanding Agile and understanding Scrum. Jeff Sutherland, a lot of people consider him the father of Agile. And the book did an amazing job kind of outlining for us, some of the reasons why what we had been doing was not producing the kind of results we were looking for. And there was one sentence in the book that really kind of summed it up for us, and that is Scrum and Agile are perfect for complex and creative tasks. What we do is complex and creative. So again, we felt like it was worth looking into. And here's kind of how we've started to think about it in terms of how we apply it. So if you look at the collection of icons at the top left, where we have kind of those 5 little icons, like there's some collaboration that goes on for us. We're going to have our team involved with our clients to kind of talk about what needs to get accomplished, and we're going to build, as we kind of cycle around this chart and look down at that little checklist icon, we're going to build this backlog of suggestions and ideas and upgrades and tactics that we think we want to deploy to get our clients the best results. And we're going to, every week the team is going to pull from that tactics backlog and, decide that here's the top priorities in terms of how we're going to get the clients the best results. This is what we want to work on. And they're going to enter into a sprint and really deliver that work in a 1-week period. And then you actually get to see the work, the emails, the websites, the search upgrades, all that stuff gets delivered. And then we get feedback in terms of data that contribute to the conversations, again, around what we want to work on. The tactics get prioritized, the team pulls down the backlog, and you can see how this cycle rotates around very consistently. One of the things we learned pretty quickly was that the faster we can cycle this, the faster the client gets better results. So in essence, by applying Agile to what we were already doing, we found a way to deliver 2 times the work in half the time, and that produced a significant improvement in results, and we're going to get into that at the very end. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Megan to talk about, actually, I'm going to talk about organizing the team. Sorry, Megan. So you can go to the next slide. The first thing we realized was our team really wasn't organized properly to deliver like this. So marketing is typically organized in silos. You have your email marketing person or people, or perhaps you have your search firm, right, who's handling SEO for you, or your social agency or your website design firm. Like, this is typically how marketing is organized in a very siloed way. And I honestly, this prevents marketing in today's environment. Like, you saw that collection of stuff that needs to get done. It really prevents it from getting done effectively. So what we started to think about was, oh, and by the way, who's responsible for strategy in this scenario, right? Basically, the web people do their website strategy, the social people do their social strategy, the email gets done with an email strategy, SEO has its own strategy. There's no integration going on here. Like, perhaps, you, the client, or you, the VP of marketing, or you, the CEO, has the responsibility for a strategy, but there is no integration of marketing strategy in a lot of the clients that come to us who have had challenging results. So that all has to get fixed. What we're looking to do here from an Agile perspective is, you can go to the next slide, is, eliminate this concept of marketing people tossing the ball over the net to design, copy, and interactive people, right? And this is very typical. You have, people that can do design and copy and interactive, and the marketing people tell them what to do, and they go away and do it, and they give it back to the marketing people, and they look at it, and they're like, well, this isn't quite what I wanted, make these changes. It goes back over the net to them, and they work on it, and we really were trying to eliminate that. Like, that is very counterintuitive to the way marketing works today. Certainly the way inbound works the best. This just isn't going to work. So we wanted to break that down. One of our attempts to break that down and crash those silos and start to look at things differently, if you go to the next slide, is to build a way for people to collaborate more, to be accountable for work and results, to work together and have ownership for the work that they're trying to deliver, to be involved in the estimating process, not the cost estimating process, but how long is it going to take to do this work? I don't want a marketing person saying this is a 2-week job and then talking to the interactive person and them saying, well, I can't do this in 2 weeks. I need a month to add this feature. Like, that's inefficient, right? And you want your team to be flexible, right? You want them to be able to respond to data that you're learning. And honestly, you want them to be self-directed too. You don't really want a designer to come into work and say, look at their screen and say, okay, here are the 5 things I need to do today. Some project manager set this up for me. You really want them to be in a position where they can be self-directed and feel good about that. first way we considered, doing that was by just like having people sit together, right? So if people are sitting together, then well, maybe they'll collaborate, maybe they'll be able to work on stuff together. That seems like a good idea, but honestly, it doesn't work, right? Just having them sit together is not going to be enough to get them to achieve that list of bullets that we had on that previous slide. You're going to need more than that. And, Agile kind of gives us this concept which we've converted into the Hive, where we've taken all of these people and built a team around our clients that have all of the responsibilities and all of the accountabilities required to deliver on our promises to our clients. Like, here's exactly what we need to do to deliver and what we need to do this week, next week, the week after that, and the team has all the resources they need to do it. They have copy people, they have designers, they have interactive people, they have marketing people, they have everything they need. So this is really different than typically this functional split from the marketing expertise. And then in order to support these people from a professional development perspective, we matrix them and basically have the client services people working together and the copy and creative people working together and the interactive people working together. So those interactive people are still learning search techniques and website design techniques from each other, and at the same time they're accountable to the clients and the marketing people. So there's a lot of professional development there, and there's a lot of support from those people so they have a really good professional experience. Okay, so Agile and Scrum provides the rituals around the delivery of the marketing work like we've been talking about. So, the team sets up the sprint. The team makes the commitments to the client. The teams collaborate on challenges. The teams learn from each other's areas. So you have a designer talking to a interactive person so that the designer is not creating a design that is super complex for interactive to build. So, you want them working together, and Agile gives you a really good way to do that. You want the teams to evaluate their performance in the sprint, and we're going to talk about what a sprint is in a couple minutes. You want the team planning for improvement. So if they look back and say, oh, we could do this better, you want them to be able to build time into their next iteration to make it better. And you want the team to measure how happy they are. And by the way, we don't need any project managers to deliver this because the team is accountable and the team is self-directed. So we're achieving a lot of the things we've been talking about achieving to make the marketing work well as part of starting to apply Agile and Scrum to what we're trying to do. So you need to give them the tools, right? And this is one way to give the team the tools they need to get the best results. And speaking of results, when they have the tools, they can do a better job getting you leads. They can do a better job generating revenue, and they can do a better job delivering the business results that you're looking for from your marketing effort. And I think at that point, I'm going to be able to turn this over to Megan to talk a little bit about prioritizing the work.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Okay, so we know that we've got all of this stuff to do as marketers. If it didn't give you anxiety the first time, here it is again, a ton of things going on for any modern marketer. And so how is it that we as marketers are supposed to get this all done? The answer is to prioritize. And Agile really gives us a nice framework and a nice mechanism to prioritize the work in a way that makes sense in order to get business results. And it really only boils down to a fairly simple question. And this is a question we ask ourselves here at Square 2 and our teams each week, and at the beginning of each day. And that's what's going to produce the best results for the least amount of effort. So for instance, if you're running an inbound program and you've got the choice between building a brand new ebook, 10 pages, great copy, fully designed, building a landing page, we're not so sure how it's going to be received. Or you can go back to a landing page that you've got up and running, it's converting fairly well, but it can improve. An Agile approach makes it so that the team can collectively decide it's going to be more valuable to the business, to the client, to the results, to optimize that landing page to bring in more leads. It's going to take far less time. Optimization of a landing page for the form or the CTA, can take 30 minutes, and the impact could be huge here. So there's a big focus on making sure that you're clear about your goals and then you're prioritizing accordingly. Scrum and Agile really give us the rituals to allow us a mechanism to prioritize, as Mike kind of mentioned earlier. So we're going to go through a few of those rituals to give you an idea how our teams are organized and how we actually get this work done in an Agile inbound program. So ritual 1 is the product backlog, or as we call it, the tactic backlog. So the Agile methodology has its roots in software development. And the idea of a backlog is the master list of all of the ideas and all of the tactics and all the thoughts and features that will go into your product. So in software, it's things like spell check and, auto-populate the fields of whoever's filling out the form. In marketing, our backlog consists of things like we saw on those other slides, webinars and white papers and A/B testing and smart content. It's a really good place to just prioritize all of the work for the team so that the team has an idea of what is going to be coming up next. In the product tactic backlog, as I mentioned, you want a master list of all of these ideas for how to improve the results. In our experience, you want to go out about 30 or 60 days because going any further out than that is sort of a waste of time. Today's business environment, today's marketing is very dynamic. There are things that come up all the time to change priorities. And we've found that having an overwhelming backlog can sort of slow you down. So we recommend populating that backlog up definitely 30 and then maybe to about 60 days out. Included in that backlog, you're going to want all of the tactic ideas, campaigns, upgrades, improvements that your team has suggested to get your results. And you're really going to want to break them down to their smallest component. That's a central theme in Agile. Since you have a team of people, the idea is that, if you can get copy moving at the same time as design, you're really able to get maximum efficiency. So that backlog is not created in isolation by you, the marketer. It's, you're organizing it, you're prioritizing it. But here's the chance you have to get input and feedback from stakeholders, your CEO, your team, so that everyone is really on the same page about what it is you want to do. Ritual 2 is backlog grooming. So once you've got a fully populated backlog, you need to regularly maintain it to make sure that everything is up to date, that feedback is incorporated, and that you're really moving towards the same collective mission. So backlog grooming is our second ritual. It happens on a regular basis. For Square 2, we do it weekly. The team as a group estimates the effort it's going to take to get the work done. And this is a really important point because the Scrum book, as Mike mentioned earlier, does a really good job illustrating that human beings by nature are just terrible at estimating individually. As Mike mentioned, very easy for marketers to say something like, well, we'll get this web page built, in the next week or so. And then it kicks over to your interactive developer, and it turns out you forgot to consider all these details, and it's going to take a month. Not a good position to be in. So you want everyone on the same page, everyone's estimating as a group. You're going to be reprioritizing weekly because, as we said, things are going to change, new things are going to come up. There's going to be new products or features, new interests of the company. You want to make sure everyone's on the same page. That's going to facilitate your best sprint. And in your backlog grooming sessions, this is a great time to add in new ideas or tactics, new technology that comes up, a slideshare presentation, something like that. And you want to remove anything that's outdated that you're not going to be getting around to in the next 30 to 60 days. So maybe you thought that ebook would be a great idea, but it turns out, it's going to take too long. We're not sure how good of results it's going to produce, so you'd want to throw that out. Ritual 3, sprint planning. So Mike mentioned earlier, we talk about what it is that we mean by sprint. So in Agile, the sprint is a time-boxed effort. It means that it's a specific amount of time. At Square 2, we use weekly sprints. Typically in an Agile marketing environment, a sprint is between 1 week and 1 month long. So in our sprint planning, the team is going to come together as a whole, and we're going to collaborate on that tactic backlog that's now freshly groomed. We're going to select the work as a team that's going to produce the best results with the least amount of effort. And here's where you really get the opportunity to get everyone's input. If you've got team members who are really strong in user experience, put them to work over there. What kind of effort can they put out to get what kind of results? What's really important here in our sprint planning is we're committing to the amount of work we can get done in one sprint. We're also going to make sure that everyone on the team is allocated to their full capacity. You've got different team members with different skill sets, and you want to make sure that everyone's working to their fullest all of the time. And then we do this weekly on a recurring basis. Why do we do this? So that the team can focus. One of the biggest benefits of Agile that we've realized as an agency is the ability for our team to get focused. There's a lot of emphasis on being proactive and making sure that you've got your planning properly done so that when the sprint actually starts, the team is ready, they have everything they need, and they can really sit down and focus on getting results. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Mike to talk a little bit more about focusing, specifically on business results.
Thanks, Megan. So, like it's easy to become a little bit focused on like the data that comes along with Agile and Scrum, because you do get presented a lot of data, capacity numbers, commitment numbers, velocity numbers, but that's not really what you want to focus on. Really what you want to focus on are the outcomes, right? Even the best team can become distracted. So there are a number of other rituals that we're going to go through here that allow your team to focus on what really matters. And what really matters, obviously, is the leads and the revenue and the business outcomes that you've instructed your teams to be responsible for. So the first ritual that really helps with the focus is the daily stand-ups. So every single day for 15 minutes, the team meets and they go through a very quick collection of questions. Each person, and it's not a status report, it's more just to like make sure that things are moving forward. What did you do yesterday? What are you working on today? And what's in your way? So that if there are things in the team's way, they can be addressed in the beginning of the day and addressed immediately and addressed by the person who can help them with it, and off they go. The focus is on teamwork and delivering on the sprint. So every single day, the team has an opportunity to check in and collaborate with each other so that the sprint continue to move forward and that they're going to deliver everything they committed to do. The other ritual that really helps with focus is the review and the retrospective. So this really gives the team an opportunity at the end of the sprint to look back and say, what went well, what could we have done better, and what needs to be improved the next time, and in addition to what efforts are contributing to the results. So if every single week you're doing this review and you're kind of looking back, that means every single week your sprint is going to get better, and every single week your team is going to perform more efficiently, and every single week you should be expecting an improved set of results from your team. Now, the thing that becomes the little bit of the key here is that you're going to want them to identify things that can be done to improve their performance, and you're going to want to allocate some time in the next sprint to improve that performance. So that might mean sacrificing potentially some deliverable effort in exchange to help the team get a little bit better. I think you're going to want to make that concession because over time you're going to find that investment in their time will come back in every single sprint after that. So if they want to put a couple of hours or a couple of points towards fixing something that went wrong in the previous sprint, then that's something they should be empowered to do. So these reviews and retrospectives are really important. In essence, you're kind of giving them the ability to make small improvements over a long period of time. In essence, every single week, your team is going to get a little bit better. And after a couple of weeks, after a couple of months, after a couple of years, you're going to find that this is a competitive advantage for you that allows you your team to perform at a high level, but since this part of the conversation is about business results, to allow your marketing to produce some significant business results. And we're going to talk about that in a second too. So metrics and analytics, this is super important. One of the things that is different about inbound marketing from some of the other marketing that perhaps we used to practice is that we have a ton of data and it's real time, right? I could tell you right now exactly how many visitors are at my website, what my conversion rate is, how many leads I've gotten so far to date. This is information that a lot of us have not had our hands on before, so we now have to figure out what to do with it. The goal here around Agile is to improve the metrics. So Yes, you're going to get a velocity score in terms of how much work your team is producing during the sprint, and you're going to get a capacity number, how much work is my team capable of delivering during the sprint, and you're going to get a happiness score at the end of the sprint, how happy is my team, and you're going to get this every single week, and you probably want to look at a rolling 4-week average for comparisons, and these numbers are great, but these numbers are not what you want to focus on. It's kind of like if you're in a race car, a car race. Speed is good, but you can have the fastest car and lose the race, right? If you're not executing all the other things properly, if your car isn't tuned and it can't maintain, if your pit crew isn't in sync and they can't get you in and out of the pits, if your driver's not great and you're making mistakes on the track, the fastest car doesn't always win the race. And it's the same thing here with this. The velocity is not what you want to focus on. You really want to focus on wins or business results. You really want to make sure that your car gets over the finish line every single week, as many times as possible, which means understanding the business results and making sure that that team delivers those business results on a regular basis. Now, in our case, when you're talking about marketing, it's typically leads, or it could be sales qualified leads, or it could be new customers. So those are all really good outcomes that you're shooting for. It could potentially be website visitors if you want your marketing team focused at the top of the funnel. It could potentially be revenue from current customers if you want your marketing team focused on cross-selling and revenue generation from your current customer base. So you have to kind of point them in the right direction and make it clear that and they understand what the business results are. But then that's something that they should be focused on. The velocity and the capacity and the team member happiness are important, but really you want them focused on the results. Again, some of the business results from Agile that we can potentially look at. Look, the ability to do more with less resources is a business result. There's a cost savings and an improved profitability there. You may have a team of 5 people that you can produce better results with a team of 3. And by applying Agile, your team gets more efficient and your team realizes that they don't need all of the resources because they're doing things differently. That's a business result. Cost savings is definitely a business result. Improved performance of your marketing, like we talked about. Leads, sales qualified leads, sales opportunities, customers, that's kind of an obvious one. Decreased turnaround time. So, focus eliminates distraction and reduces time to deliver. So if you're running a lot of web projects, for example, then, if you're allowing your team to focus, they may get your stuff done faster than they had been getting it done in the past. That's a business result that's deliverable from Agile. You're working on the right tactics as opposed to the wrong tactics. I was at a client meeting yesterday, and they were very specific. They wanted us to focus on, a LinkedIn campaign, a Google AdWords campaign, and some email marketing. Yet they told us that their business results was lead generation, and we were trying to get them to see that by putting a couple of new CTA buttons on their high-performing website pages, we were going to produce the same results for a lot less effort. So, working on the right tactics and can often be a big advantage as a result from starting to apply Agile into your marketing effort. But actually, like, the client results that come from this are really significant, and I don't want you to think this is an academic exercise. We've seen some dramatic results in our client base by starting to apply this kind of thinking. So I wanted to share a couple of them with you. Obviously, I can't tell you who these people are because I don't think it's right to really share client data with you, but I'll give you generically 51% increase in website visitors in just 60 days. So it's a little hard to see these numbers, but they were getting somewhere around 5,500 visitors back in December, and by February they were looking at over 8,000. So by focusing on the visitors and on the traffic exercise, we were able to dramatically increase the website visitors. Here's a similar example in terms of the leads for the same company. So a 183% increase in inbound leads in just 60 days. We were able to focus on conversions from that website traffic. They were getting 5,000 to 8,000 visitors a month. That's not, chopped liver. That's a nice amount of visitors. So part of our prioritization exercise was, well, how do we convert these visitors? We don't really need to, yes, we need to drive visitors and that helps, but we already have 5,000. We already have 6,000 people. How do we get them to turn into leads? And by focusing on that, we were able to take them from 236 leads a month to 671 leads a month, which is dramatic improvement in a relatively short amount of time. Here's another example. So It took a little longer. Every client is a little different, but we took them from 507 visitors a month to over 7,000 visitors in 6 months. That's a dramatic improvement. And the other thing we were looking for with these guys were they had a sub 1% site-wide conversion rate when we started working with them, and by the time we were done, we were able to do a 6% site-wide conversion rate. So again, by focusing and applying the right tactics at the right time with the right people, kind of collaborating and working together, using the data that they were seeing from the program and using the data we were getting out of HubSpot for them, we were able to produce some dramatic results. And this is what, I'm not going to say this is typical of all of our engagements, but this is what's potential in any of the engagements that we get involved in. Allowing us to apply the reality marketing strategy that we focus on in the beginning, and the inbound marketing tactical execution, and the agile marketing delivery methodology gives us the kind of three-legged stool we need to produce these kind of results. And again, here's kind of where we kind of talk about the 10x improvement in lead generation. So in this client scenario, they were getting 3 leads a month, and when we were finished with them 5 months later, they were looking at over 300 leads in a month. So you can see what a dramatic improvement Agile and inbound can make when it's focused and when it's executed in a way that is designed to deliver these kinds of results. So the webinar's promise was a 10x improvement in lead gen. Here's the example that we use to validate our ability to improve lead generation by 10 times over a relatively short amount of time. Again, results vary client by client. 5 months and a 10x improvement is not typical, but it's definitely possible when all the components are there and the client is completely on board and Agile is applied to the exercise. So we talked about offering a special offer for all of the attendees, and this offer will actually be available to everyone who registered for the attendees, and the registration was certainly beyond our expectations, so that's really incredible. What we have here is a special ebook. This ebook is brand new. We actually just finished it. It's the Agile Inbound Marketing, how better collaboration drives your best results. So you don't have to do anything. We're going to take care of sending this to you. We'll send you an email next week that gives you access to the ebook. So if you're interested in what we talked about today, or you're viewing the recording and you're interested in getting access to the ebook, we're going to take care of sending it to you very early next week. So I really appreciate your time and your participation. We have time for some questions. So Megan's going to moderate the questions that have been coming in. So we appreciate all your questions, and let's see how we can help you guys. So again,
Sure.
if you have questions, you can chat them to us, and in the meantime, we'll handle some of the ones that we've been getting.
Sure. A few questions have come in. So Mike, here's a good one. Do you use or recommend any software application to help with the sprint collaboration and organization?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and we do. I mean, I can tell you what we use. We use Jira, which is a software development tool, an agile project management tool that software development has used, and we've been able to adapt it to take care of the marketing application. So it actually works really well for us, and we've used a variety of other project management tools over the year, and the general feedback from the crew here is that this is the best tool we've had yet. So it's really good at automating a lot of the agile things that we do, but it's also good at managing the projects.
Okay. Next question here is how to go about planning and prioritizing a longer-term project. The example here is a website or an ebook.
Yeah, so one of the things that Agile teaches you is that you really want to break down big tasks into little tasks. So, and this is how you get the kind of, cross-functional collaboration and the efficiencies in terms of getting your team to deliver maybe a bigger project faster than perhaps they would if they were looking at it as a big project. So you take your big project like an ebook, for example, and then you're going to break it down into copy creation, into design, into edits perhaps. Like copy editing might be its own task that gets assigned to somebody, or the QA of the piece. Obviously when we do stuff like this, we're also doing lead nurturing campaigns and landing pages and CTA buttons. So all of the elements that would go into that get broken down into its smallest task. It gets estimated. It gets assigned to the team. As the team has availability, they're pulling these tasks down from the work that was planned in the sprint. The product owners are allocating these individual tasks into the sprint, so clearly they're not only going to be working on this ebook in a sprint, so they may try to get 50% of the ebook done in one sprint and 50% of the ebook done in the second sprint in a hope that the ebook gets completely delivered over the course of 2 weeks. So it's a lot about methodology, and it's a lot about just thinking through the individual tasks that would go into producing this bigger project.
Thank you. Here's another one. There seems to be a heavy emphasis on collaboration with Agile. What if I'm not confident all of my team members are capable of collaboration?
That's a good question, Megan. Do you want to answer that?
Sure. So I will say, for anyone who's running a marketing team, first and foremost, it's really important to make sure that you're properly incentivizing your team and keeping everybody on the same page. With that said, the Scrum book is very clear on this. The Agile methodology will reveal for you very quickly who your weakest links are. And per the Scrum book, the answer here is to cut them off of the team, get rid of them, and get someone who can give you more of an impact. It is a collaborative process. You do need that input. And so if you're getting team members who simply are performing, it's just best for the business to find someone else, or to even streamline your team, as Mike had mentioned earlier, going down from 3 to 5.
Yeah, and it's not like these, it's not like these people are bad people, but not everybody can adapt to this kind of work style. So the team is usually pretty good at evaluating the people that are having trouble working like this, and it's not like we're removing them from the company, but we may remove them from the team and find something else for them to do that requires a little less collaboration. It requires maybe a little less application of the Scrum methodology. So when our teams run into individuals that are basically preventing them from getting their work done, then we have a discussion and see if we can't find a better place for these people to find their home.
And I think that raises a good point, Mike, that, Agile is not a casual exercise. It's a thoughtful decision, and it requires a transition process because it is a different mindset. And so, initially in the first sprint or two, there were team members that weren't comfortable with what we were doing. But now that we're several sprints in, I'd say by the second or third sprint, it did become clear, who were the power players and how we should organize the team most effectively. And I mean, I can say without a doubt, at this point from where we started in the Agile Scrum model, our team is far, far stronger, and the results even speak to that. Okay, we have another question. Any examples of improvements that your team has made over your sprints? Mike, you want to handle this one, or do you want me to cover it?
No, sure. So, yeah, so one of the major improvements is around websites. So if any of you have undertaken website redesign or redevelopment projects for your businesses, you know that those can sometimes take months, and in some cases 6 months to 9 months or even longer. They're really arduous processes that, usually at the end everyone's exhausted. You're just happy that it's finished. It's probably not exactly what you wanted, but you're just glad to have it done. And you're exhausted, and the web company that worked on it's exhausted. It's just not a great experience. So, one of the things we've done is try to apply the Agile thinking to our website design and development exercises. So we're talking to our clients about doing much smaller, more iterative websites. So we really take kind of an Agile approach to it and say, what's the minimum requirement we need to get this site live to start generating leads? And let's get that done in 30 days. Let's get this site up and out and start to see, what people are doing on it, where they're going, where they're converting, what needs to be improved. And over the next 30-day period, we'll add more pages to it to make it more robust and make it more comprehensive, and then we'll get data on those pages. And over the next 30 days, we'll do the same thing. So it's a much more iterative and agile process built around marketing that produces the business results. So, you know, and in reality, we're not going to stop after 90 days. We're going to keep looking at the website as a living, breathing organism and keep making updates to it, keep making upgrades to it, keep adding things to it over time so that it gets better and better and better and better. And our hope is that our clients never have to redo their website and that we're constantly making small, subtle tweaks to it so that you never have to go through this giant website design and development exercise again, and the website is constantly iterating so that it performs better and better and better. And I think that's probably one of the best places we've been able to apply this agile thinking to get our clients better results.
Okay, let's see, we have another one. This is regard to sprint length. It was mentioned that a sprint is typically 1 week to a month in length. This is a wide variance. Do you have any insight or recommendations as to what length of sprint works best?
Sure. Do you want to answer that?
Sure. So I think that it's going to vary for every marketing team and every set of marketing goals, and I don't mean that as a cop-out. At Square 2, we've tried 1 week sprints and 2 week sprints, and ultimately, at least for the time being, we've settled on 1 week sprints. What we found is that if you think back to, you know, the creative team and the marketing side and the benefit of focusing in Agile, we want to be able, to just get as much work moving through as possible, and we want for changes to be incorporated, feedback in. So it seems like, you know, the people that are reporting up to the CEO, the people that are getting the buy-in from the stakeholders, they tend to push for a shorter sprint towards 1 week. Your writers, your designers, your developers, they tend to prefer the 2 week sprint because they're able to really focus and get their head down in the work. And so we've kind of tried both angles, and we do a 30-day planning session that then is broken out into those 1 week sprints. It really depends on how fast your team can cycle. It really depends on the makeup of your team. So I would recommend trying out a couple different lengths in sprint and seeing what really works best for you. You know, it is all about results. And so if it turns out that 1 week sprints get you better results, you know, by all means go with that. And those are the types of pieces of feedback we get in our reviews and retros that really have helped to streamline it. Okay, and it looks like we have one final question. What is an example of a reason to detract from a long-term strategic plan? Mike, I have a couple of client examples. I don't know if any examples come to mind for you.
Yeah, the question is, you know, why would you divert from your long-term strategic plan?
Yes, why would you, yes.
Yeah, I don't think the question is about diverting, and I don't think this is about like a business's strategic plan. I think what we're trying to communicate is marketing is extremely data-driven now. So you may come up with a 3 to 5 year strategic plan, and you may be have now created like the marketing tactics that you think are required to deliver on that plan. And after a couple of months, realize that the tactics we thought were going to work are not working. So it's not about deviating from the strategic plan. It's about making sure making sure the marketing is agile and dynamic enough to adjust if the results are not producing. So again, the client I referred to earlier, they also are doing a ton of outbound, right? A ton of cold calling. And my expectations are that in a month or two, they're going to realize that cold calling is a complete waste of time. We heard earlier in the session that Harvard Business Review is reporting that 90% of people aren't responding to cold calls. So if they're making 100 calls, they're only getting through to 10 people, and who knows if those 10 people are even interested. So the ability to adapt is more around adjusting the marketing tactics as opposed to adapting or adjusting the business strategy.
And then we have one last question, which is, what's the best way to get started with Agile?
That is a very good question. I would suggest that the best way to get started would be to start to have some conversations among your team. you can definitely get the book and have them read the book and make it more of a conversation as opposed to an edict. Hey, like I read this book and it seemed really interesting and it might apply to us. Why don't you guys read it and let's talk about it? Let's start a conversation on whether this is going to be helpful for us or not. If we think it is, then you can start to maybe get a little more aggressive about, well, what do we need to do to move to Agile? How do we need to restructure the teams? Are there any roles that are missing? Are we executing the right tactics? And get your team involved. I think if you involve them, you'll have better buy-in and a better chance of being successful. The other thing you could do that we did is you could potentially run a pilot. So instead of changing the entire marketing organization and making them Agile all at once, maybe pick a smaller subset of your team depending on how big they are. Even if you took one person, right? Let's say you have 4 people and you took one person and said, okay, you're going to work agilely. And, in your area, we're going to create the backlog. And, you're going to start to think about some of the things you do from an Agile perspective. While it wouldn't be optimal because clearly you're not really getting the entire team involved in terms of collaboration and that kind of thing, at least you'd start to see if there's benefits to what you're doing, if the individual is okay with the change, and if they have a positive experience, then potentially you could go to the rest of the team and say, hey, we piloted this and it worked really well, and here are some of the things we've seen in terms of efficiencies and improved results. We're gonna do this for everybody. So piloting and potentially just having some conversations around it and getting people thinking about it might be some good ways to start down the path of thinking about Agile for your business.
Excellent. And I'd agree. I mean, the Scrum book it's a really inspiring book, regardless of whether you adapt the methodology or not. It really does just give you a new way to think about working in teams and results. It really has made a definitive change in our organization. Those are all the questions that have come in through the chat panel, and we're about at the top of the hour. So I just wanted to thank everybody again for your participation today. Thank you, Mike. As Mike mentioned, we'll be sending out the webinar recording later today, and then next week, once we're back from Memorial Day weekend, we will send everyone a copy of our new Agile Inbound Marketing ebook. So again, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a happy Memorial Day weekend, and a great summer.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.